The second invasion of Arabia was going far better than expected. With 2/3 of Arabia Felix under control, the Mauryan economy improved significantly. These tribes were previously so focused on warfare, they didn't see the potential of their own lands. If only they worked together instead of spilling blood. I guess the same could actually be said about my father. Less so for myself, but still correct, I must admit. Marib and its dam proved to be extremely valuable to Maurya. However, Saba, the previous occupants of these great walls, still possess a bunch of land in the southwestern part of Arabia. It was taken by force from their old enemy, the Himyars. As I haven't met any resistance so far, I can only predict them to be there somewhere. We must prepare our defenses for the inevitable siege. My estimations were true. Out of the fog of war came an immense legion of Arabia with only one goal in mind: to reclaim what I took from them. No doubt I'm looking like the greatest villain from their point of view. Yet if we can convert them to our ways, that might be different. Mauryan, a tribe just north of Marib, came to our walls just before the Sabarians. They proclaimed themselves to be immortal enemies of Saba, and if I were to defeat them entirely, they would be forever in our debt and join our cause. I honestly think they might have been a tad desperate, as they basically submitted right after I agreed to their terms. Usually only my father would have the power to accept such a deal. But with him too entangled in Persia, I'm the highest ranking officer present. Besides, I doubt he will mind this unless he wants to deal with this shitty desert himself. I'm still finding sand in my... You know what? Never mind. Surprisingly enough, the Sabarians besieged the town for several weeks. If it was my men, they would have starved or been dehydrated by this alone. Nevertheless, we needed to confront them on the field in a show of strength. As we approached the field, my biggest fear was their camel riders. Luckily enough, they were right in the range of my archers to send countless volleys their way. The overall plan was simple. Step 1. Dwindle them down with our arrows. Step 2. Defeat in detail on the right side of the battlefield. Step 3. Profit. It was a stunning victory, one to remember for decades. However, even with the Sabarian forces gone, Our casualties never stopped. Maybe it was just the scorching desert, or perhaps the blades of our enemies were poisoned. I can't truly know for certain. Only one thing is, I don't want to be in this bloody desert longer than necessary. With the Mauryan being so willing to become a part of Mauryan history books, I got an idea. A scheme which I must say my father Bindusara would oppose. There are still 4 other tribes we could consider as potential allies in the west. The Egyptians are out there somewhere too, but their Greek-ruling pretenders have sealed their fate long ago. Plus, we need Alexandria for ourselves if my mission is to succeed. Never mind, let's go back to my topic. My plan was to send out a diplomat to each different ruler, learn who their enemies are, who they admire, and how willing they are to buy our spices. If everything goes as planned, Arabia will be under Mauryan control in no time. Finally, I have arrived in Arabia. That voyage was so long, possibly even too long. With this important news from the east, I should probably just have returned to Bindusara. Yet I can imagine without his son, Ashoka, with me, he would execute me within seconds of speaking the words, calling me a traitor and a foreigner. The local garrison of Muscat told me of his whereabouts and where he was going. However, before I could march out, the locals asked me to assist with a local rebellion. The commander of the garrison told me these rebels were actually slave warriors, obtained from Eudaemon, a Sabaean stronghold. Their morale was weak and could be dealt with easily. However, I don't have the numbers, unlike them. If I were to do this, we would have to test what these warriors of Arabia were made of. So I recruited a few auxiliaries to join my army. Some even brought camels to assist in my mission. Mercenaries mostly. I don't have time for this. We made sure the garrison linked up with us unharmed. But after that, I led the cavalry contingent all the way forward, hiding in the tree lines. I never expected to lead my own men again. Certainly not after that failed fight for independence. After going forward a few kilometers, we saw the massive lines of the slave warriors preparing to envelop us. The cowardly general stayed at the back, so we left him alone. The Arabian auxiliaries threw their pillars and then pinned down the enemy. Not long after, the garrison forces flanked around with my cavalry crew smashing into their rear. Finally. This has already taken up too much time. I must return to my quest and inform Bindusara about the catastrophic events in the east before it is too late. I disbanded the rest of my forces, restocked my supplies, and galloped into the desert. The road down to Eudaemon was long and rough. Our numbers dwindled away each passing day. The economy wasn't great either. I know the Mauryan just want to help us, but their presence in my lands caused so much unrest that all production and trade halted. A massive problem that resulted in us spending more wealth than we were actually earning. This is making me question my decision to enlist them as a vassal. Nevertheless, there was nothing we could do about it. Supplies was a huge problem as well. Not just for my men, but all citizens of Arabia. This couldn't keep going like this, so I sent a letter to my wife, hoping she had forgiven my unfaithfulness and would help. The request was for her to embezzle funds in the capital, so we could invest them into food and wine for Arabia Felix. After consulting a desert prophet, I was told she had fulfilled my wishes and saved my expedition. He also gave me a piece of good advice to raise the taxes back to normal instead of our usual low policy. So I did that, and it turned out to help our economy even more so. With that, I fought a bloody battle to finish off the last Sabaean fortress. A slave hub of which they sold their defeated enemies to faraway lands, along with our Mauryan spices. Looking through their papers, I learned some fascinating intel. Their most promising trade partner carried the same eagle banner as the rumors told us about, yet this time we could finally translate the actual name. Rome. By the looks of their accounts, we are actually talking about an impressive number of wealth gained from this. Alexandria becomes even more important now by the second. Supposedly another Sabaean army was operating in Hagar before our arrival. That's just to the north of me. They were now on their way back to defeat me, but had trouble moving through the harsh desert. At least I'm not the only one struggling on that front. I honestly doubt they will ever be able to muster a force in time. But still, I had to return to Marib. Maybe the diplomats I sent out earlier had arrived. 4 men waited for me once I entered the gates. The first telling about a prosperous trade and integration pact we had made with Hagar, a coastal nation more resembling a kingdom than a pure tribe. I'm glad to sell my spice, and now also slaves to them. To the north of that we had the Kshitriy, an independent tribe familiar with the desert, who don't actually want to leave it for some foreigner's war. I assume this answer most likely was the result of fear from the Seleucids, their northern neighbor. However, they will soon learn staying neutral in a war between giants is a bad idea, especially if you hold a strategically important town like this one. It could give a straight passage to Egypt and the Nile, or even move north against the Seleucids from another front, if wished for. The third was just a regular cavalry commander from the mission of Nabatea. He told me of a massive ambush on the road by the exact same kingdom they tried to reach. It was the first taste of proper camel and desert warfare we had experienced in a while. They have sided with Egypt then. Respectable, but a foolish choice. And then we have the Medewi. Apparently, they showed such humbling hospitality to my diplomat, I should praise the gods. Riding on their own gifted elephants, they were escorted into Diospolis, a marvelous city split in two due to the Nile running through it. It smelled like fine wine, unlike the elephant-reeking towns we've marched through so far. It even rivaled the likes of our own. Truly impressive. The king gave us an audience in their courtyard in front of his grand military. Most likely it was an intimidation tactic of some kind. Nonetheless, he was willing to let us leave with huge gifts of gold and precious metals to decorate our warriors. A fine gift, no doubt. He probably have something planned for us. This feels more like a bribe than anything else. While hearing about all of this, I felt as if I was in another world, till I heard my name being screamed from a distance. It was Monobasus. I was expecting this to be Basha, as I'd asked him to bring some reinforcements a while ago. A while ago. Once he came closer, his facial expression said it all. This was not good. The balance of power is shifting.